So in this tutorial, I'm going to cover adding fingerprints and how to do it correctly so you get a photorealistic result. So first of all here, if you click on Material Editor, and we're just going to double click here on this V-Ray material, make sure this is open if needed, and just make sure you have this assigned to whatever object you want. And then what we're going to do is just make a quick metal. So I'm just going to click on these two buttons up here. This one will show the material in the viewport, and this will show the background in preview. We're going to turn off Fresnel reflections. Take this. We're just going to do this real quick. You can add fall-offs and other things to these, but I'm trying to show you the fingerprints. And I'll make that 0.6. And actually, let's make the diffuse black. And just bring this up a bit. Let's make it slightly blue. Oh, other way, sorry. Just like a slightly blue steel kind of thing, that's what I'm going for here. Okay, so that's assigned and that's there. And if I click render now, it's a bit too blue for me. Just take the saturation down. See, it brings these closer together if I bring that saturation down. And click OK, and we're just going to render that. Okay, cool. So that's really what I'm after. And we're going to do some real rough renders here, and just so you can see what's happening. And then we'll do better renders, and you'll see those at the beginning and the end of the video. But we got some cool effects here, and that's a metal, that'll work. Okay, all we're going to do is I just googled fingerprints on metal and fingerprints, and I found this image of this hand, and I found this image here, and this one, and here it is. So these are what we're going to use. And okay, for this first one, I'm just going to drop this in here, drag and drop, just double click on this. And what you want to do is you want to put this into the anisotropy rotation. And nothing's changed, but we're not expecting it to change because we've got no anisotropy on here. So we're going to double click on this and just take this anisotropy, and I think 0.5 will work. And you can see, obviously, you can go real high up to 0.9, but you're going to get this odd effect. You know, if you don't have this on there, you can see what's happening. And you can come down, and you just see that occurs less and less. And what anisotropy rotation does is it takes it and it just rotates it. So what we're doing is we're using a map to do this rotation. And the anisotropy, I'm going to set it at about 0.5. I found that works pretty well. And anisotropy rotation, we're just going to plug this map straight in here. And then this is assigned, so I'm just going to click on this again. Sorry, I better click on the map here, and then click on this, and then I can see that in the viewport, and I can see what's going on. Now, that's a bit big for me, so I'm going to just come in here and do this tiling 2 by 2. And that looks a bit more like fingerprints. Actually, press M to bring that back up. And I think maybe 3 on that top one. Close that. Yeah, that looks better. That looks more what I'm after. Now, if I press F9, nothing happens. I'll click up here, and we get a render coming out. And this is the awesome thing here. You can see with the anisotropic rotation what it's doing. And so, you know, if you put it in the other slots, like if instead of putting it in here, if I'd put it in reflection glossiness, you would have got something quite different, or reflection, you would have gotten something quite different. And the closest you're going to get to how actual fingerprints work is right here in anisotropic rotation. Now you can try, if you like, you can come down here to the output and you can invert the map just to see what it's going to do. And we'll just save this one into the history, and we'll just re-render. And if we save this out, you can make one of these A and one of them B, and you can slide this along and see the difference. And you can see, you know, it's just been inverted, so these light bits now are dark, and you can decide which one you prefer. But in looking into this, you know, if you look at fingerprints, you can see you get this lighter bit normally where the fingerprint actually is. So here it's lighter, here it's reflective. But again, here sometimes it becomes darker. And so that's why we have the anisotropic rotation, because you get those, here the fingerprint is lighter, and yet here it's darker. So you get that rotation happening. And that's the awesome thing about the anisotropic rotation, is you get this light-dark change with the fingerprint, which is what you have here in reality when you start looking at photos and references. That's what you get. Some bits are dark, some bits are light. And that's what we're trying to create, and that's why we put it in anisotropic rotation. And also, it doesn't actually affect the color of the metal at all. Okay, so that's the first one. I always love the first ones. The first ones are so easy. And we put that there, and you can see what's going on. Now I'm just going to shift, click on this, and shift, click on this, and it's doing it too slowly. I'm going to shift and click and drag. All right, take that out of anisotropic rotation, and let's assign this now to this ball. And we're going to do the next one. Now the next one is the hand. So this is the basic hand map that I found on the internet. And then what I did is I made it bigger, and then I made it less dark, and then I did the normals. So I'll show you why. To start with, I took this and grabbed it here, and I put this into anisotropic rotation. And I got this. Now, the difference with these two maps is this one is full of fingerprints. Everywhere there's a fingerprint. So that's fine. We can do anisotropic rotation over the whole thing. But with this one, this metal, we don't necessarily want it, to have anisotropy here. We would just want that to be a flat metal. But there has to be anisotropic rotation in order for the there has to be anisotropy for the anisotropic rotation to show up. So if I put that in there, I get that. I get on the white super anisotropy and on the black nothing. And I put that in there, I just get a mess. So also you can't see the hand here properly. So let's put this on tiling 2. Let's try 3. Okay. And then, so we can invert this. And now it's looking closer to how we want it to look. But in anisotropic rotation, it comes like this. And if I have this assigned, and sorry, better click on that and make that visible. You get that. If I press F9, it's too dark. You see this? I don't want it dark like this. Plus, I want the fingers coming down. So the first thing here, why is it becoming black? And what can we do about this? Well, to start with, if I put the hand, if I get just the hand mapping correct, I'm going to want this to be about 2. But now I end up with hands at the top and at the bottom. So I don't want that. So I decide, well, what I'm going to do is I'm just taking it out of there so you can see more clearly what's going on. And I'll just put that back in there. So I decide not to have it tile. But now I get an edge. You see this? I get this edge. And it's because it's inverted. But if I don't invert it, I get black. So neither of these work. So in order to handle this, because of the size of the object and what I wanted to do, is I just took it into Photoshop. I'll just show you my workflow here. Let's go back to the beginning. Okay, so I was here, I pressed Ctrl J, got a copy, and then I needed to make it bigger, so I clicked over here on crop, clicked on the image, and just dragged these to about the right size. Double click on that, turn that one off, do a new layer, new fill layer, solid color, click OK, and made it white. Now, the problem with this one is, this actually isn't white. So I'm going to press W here. So to get rid of this, you could try multiply, which just brings in the darks, but this is dark. So that doesn't work either. So you can change it from normal, well, maybe if we put it on multiply, put the curves on, press Control, Alt, and G to get it assigned there, and then just drag that up to there, and that should work out really nice. Then go File, Save As, JPEG. I'm just going to put handprint, new, save. Now this has made it so the blacks are lighter as well, which we also need in this case. So I'm just going to click on here and get handprint new. And turn off invert. And make that 2 and make that 1. So now we've got the handprint properly there. And make that 1.2. And so you can see what's going on here. And I'm just going to shift and drag that down, put that into anisotropic rotation, and then double click on this, click on output, click on invert. Now we've got this black lines here, so the way we're going to get rid of that, that's caused by this map. And if I invert this, you see what happens? So really we should have a black map. But this also is working, and that's working nicely. And then we'll take this. Actually, you can see at the top. Sorry. Basically here, if I push this up, you see that line? So that's what I was looking at. If you look, it's just around the edge here, you can see it. So I've got this turned off so it doesn't tile, so I'm just going to make it tile. And do you see that disappear right there? And make it tile that way. So in effect, it's round the back as well, but we're not looking at the back, so it doesn't really matter. And I want to bring this tighter together, so I'm just going to pull it to about there. So it looks like a handprint. And then what I'm going to do is take this, and now basically what we've done is we still have the anisotropy, but we have it masked, so we only have it here on the hand and not the rest of it, and that's what that's done. And then what we're going to do, we could also just plug this into anisotropic rotation, but what I want to do is I want to kind of invert that. So I'm going to go Maps General, and I'm just going to grab an output map, drag it and drop it onto here, and then double click here, output, and just click on invert. So, whoops, sorry, make this picture visible. There we go. And we're just going to render that. So before we were looking at how dark it was, how dark the print was, and we've handled that. And we handled that by making it so it's not black in the anisotropic rotation. These bits here aren't black, because that pushes the anisotropy all the way up. You know, you remember when we looked at this map? We took this, and where is it? Anisotropy here, and pushed this up. And now, because in the image in Photoshop, you know, I put this curves on, and I put a point here and dragged it up. And so that made it lighter and not so dark. See how much darker that is? And that's why we no longer have those dark, dark fingerprints. But that hand's coming out pretty nice. And we can try, you know, not inverting it, putting it directly in there. And we'll just see what the difference is here. And render. Now it's looking quite nice, but another trick which I want to do and I want to try is I want to try a normals map in there. So we're going to save this one out too. And then what we're going to do is go back to Photoshop. And we'll take this image and we're going to come up here, filter. Oh, I'm on the curves, not got this selected. So we're going to come here, press Shift, Control, Alt, and E, which gives me, I mean, it changes slightly, but basically it just takes everything and it collapses it, but above. The other thing, if that's not working for you, you can just take the layers that you have and just go Control E. And Control E will collapse them all together. And then you just go Filter, 3D, Generate Normal Map. And I'm going to leave it at default. You can play with these amounts and you can see what this does, but for now I'm going to leave it at default. Click OK. And then go File, Save As. and handprint new, normals, normal. Okay. And I'm going to take this, I'm going to shift, click and drag, double click on this. Let me just delete this output I don't need. Double click on this, click on this, and select that new normals map. Now this was inverted, that's why it's gone this funny color. So turn that off, and then put that in anisotropic rotation. And then what we're going to do is, often V-Ray just needs to know it's got a normals map. So just take V-Ray normal map, put it in there, normal map. Double click on this, and that's all fine. And you can often blend normal maps and bump maps and blend them together. And you can do various bits with here and rotation and stuff, but this should work perfectly. So now we're going to render this out. And we're just going to save that. And alright, so we've got, whoops. Okay. So this was just the rotation, sorry, the inverting of the original map. So you can see that change. And then this here is with the normals map. So just turn this off, turn that one. That's the first option. This is inverted, normals map. So you can see you're getting more detail here with a normals map. And that's what's beautiful about putting a normals map in there, is you can add in that extra level, and it makes it look more realistic. Gives you that further depth to the anisotropic rotation. And that's why, personally, I think it's an awesome choice to put in there. Okay, so now we're going to go with the third one. And I'll press M, bring up the material editor again. Just click on here, shift drag that over. Just shift and delete those two lines. And let's get this assigned to this guy. I left this up at 8.6. I'm going to put it down to 5, but it doesn't really make any difference. Like, nothing's changed here because we're controlling it with a map. But here we're going to put this back down to 5. Okay. And let's get this assigned here. The third map which we have is this last one I grabbed. And it's this one here. Now, so initially you just grab this and chuck this into anisotropic rotation. And again, of course, we have the same problem where the anisotropy is happening where we don't want it to happen. So let's see if we can deal with that first. And we can't deal with it with this map. So if you take this and just try and invert it and see what happens, you get somewhere. But basically that's too dark. So, you know, the problem becomes if you come here and you drop this anisotropy down, the anisotropy starts coming in with the metal. So you can do this if you like, but realize that if you don't want anisotropy at all, it's not going to work. Further, you have a problem because, you know, you're only seeing a few fingerprints here. If I make this visible, we're going to have the same problem we had before with the last one, where if I make it so it doesn't tile, and I want it just to become here, so I put 2 and 2. Let's try 2.5. And you see you've got this line there where the metal is. We've got a line here and a line there. So we need to deal with that. And the way to deal with it properly, because I didn't really deal with it properly with the handprint either. So the way to deal with it properly is you make it black. The background black instead of white. So I just press Ctrl J and then Ctrl I to invert it. But you can see this is a picture and it's not perfectly black. So we just go layer, new fill layer, solid color, click OK, and just make it black. Just drag this down and drag that down and click OK. Now we need to have it masked. So what we're going to do is just click on here and just click W. And I've set my tolerance at 100 and made sure contiguous is off. and it's just selected these areas and it's selected up there, but that's fine, we can mask that out. Come here and then make sure that, see this is a white background here on this box, you need black to be there because I'm going to press delete. If you don't have black there, if I press Ctrl Z, undo that. If I click this, see it flips those. And then if I press delete, I'm just, you know, if you look over here, I can't delete, put white where the white is, nothing's going to happen. So you need to have black there. And if these are different colors, just press X and it will restore those back to the default black and white ones. Then click here and delete on the mask, Ctrl D. Now, what I don't like about this is there's not enough variation in these. So what's a good idea is you can just put a curves on and just bring this, control this down a bit. Just get some variation going on there, you know? So that works. And then just worry about that little bit, that little edge. If you press Alt and click, you're going to see your mask. And I'm just going to, you got the brush here, so just click on the brush. If you've got something else there, just keep shift pressed, keep the left mouse button pressed and go to brush. And then again here you need to make sure this is white. And we're just going to paint over these edges and just make sure we haven't missed any other edges. I don't think we have, but just to be careful. And I'm just going to click over here just to bring it back to where it was before. And now this, we're going to save this as we're just going to call it that, invert. Just click save. Just click save. And 10 should be fine. And here, we're just going to click on here and grab that new inverted map. And see instantly those lines disappear. And if I turn off invert, I get what I want, which is there's anisotropy in these areas, the white areas here, but not here in these areas. Now this works. See, you've got tiling. We turned it off. It's up there, but there's no line, and that's because this is perfectly black. So often, if you have a picture, if you have a JPEG, for whatever purpose, you bring it in and you don't want it to be tiled, you turn those off, and you're getting lines and stuff. It's because your colors need to be black around here, and then when it's black, you don't get that funny, weird thing. So we've got that going on there, and then we just plug that straight into anisotropic rotation, and we get that extra detail coming in. So that's how it looks right now. So we're just going to press F9. And that's looking kind of nice, you know, you just got a few fingerprints on there. And I love the way the anisotropic rotation makes that light and here dark. And you can invert that, and that will invert those. Just going to save that one out. And then what we're going to do is what we did on the last one. So we'll take this, but let's go back to the original image. And we'll go filter, 3D, generate normal map. Just click OK. File, save as, JPEG. And just call that normal. 10 is fine. So shift, click and drag. Plug that in anisotropic rotation. Double click on here. Click on there. Take this one. Now realize this mask means you're only going to get anisotropy where the not blacks are. So I don't have to worry about any of this blue or any of that. It's only going to occur where that is. And then if I press F9. Okay, so you can see the effect this is having. And what we can do is just get a V-Ray normals map, put that in there. Normal map. Let's try that again. That's with the normals, that's without it. And it looks better without it, but I think it's because this is so blurry. So here, let's undo that. Just press Ctrl J. Let's try this again. Let's start with the curves and just try and bring this up, give it some more variation going on there. And then select those two, Control E to collapse them. And then come back up, Filter, 3D, Generate Normal Map. And we'll pay a bit more attention here on generating this. See, this is very blurry here. So let's bring this down. And bring that down. And bring that down. Up. Okay, push this one up a bit. I think maybe that's not blurry enough now. Okay, I'm going to click OK on that and save that out. And then just, sometimes, normally it loads straight away, but sometimes it doesn't. You can just click on reload just to force it to reload. And then let's see if this makes any difference. Yeah, that's making a difference there. So that's that first normals map, the second normals map, and with that one. So you just see you're getting more detail with the normals map here. And the reason you're getting more detail is because with the normals map, if you look here, you know, it knows that goes one direction, blue goes another, red goes another. So it's basically red, blue, and green, and it's just taking those colors and the mix of them and it's pushing them in different directions. Whereas, you know, with just a black and white image, it just goes up and down. It's just got one way to go. So you get a lot more depth here with this. So that's how you add fingerprints, 3ds Max and V-Ray. And now one more thing, subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much.